I saw, for me, up to this point at least, the movie of the year, which this is currently battling O.J. Made in America for my favorite movie of the year. And that's Tower. Have either of you guys seen it?
Not yet. No.
It started, and I thought, oh, okay, this is going to be kind of a typical recollection of that day. And it's about the first mass shooting in America, which happened in 1966 at the top of the clock tower at the University of Texas, where this guy had a lot of weaponry, but most notably a rifle, and he just started picking students and passersby and police officers off. In the end, he wounded over 40 people. He killed 18 of them, including the unborn child of his first victim, who was 8 months pregnant at the time. She survived, and her kind of recollection drives most of the movie, as well as the recollections of others that survived and watched it unfurl that day. But as the movie goes on, it's done with rotoscope animation. So what that does is, first of all, it's a practical solution because the footage that they have of that actual day is likely too degraded and too kind of sporadic to drive a whole movie with. And you don't want to see if you just showed actors playing these situations like a normal movie, I don't think it would have the same impact. There wouldn't be the remove of memory. It would play too kind of immediate and movie-ish, but for some reason the animation in this movie, it gives it a surreal quality, but also it feels like you're watching, I can't explain, it feels like you're watching something from the past. Anyway, as the movie goes along, it really deepens for me. There are insights in the movie that I thought were really moving. Like the girl, she was walking with her fiance at the time, and she gets shot first, the pregnant girl, and then he goes down to see what's wrong with her, and then he gets shot and dies. So she's talking about lying there in 100-degree sun out in the open while the shooter's still up there and nobody can help her, and overhearing people from the adjoining building saying, we got to go help her, and hearing somebody say, no, we have to focus on the people that have a chance. I mean, could you imagine lying there dying? Moments like that just show the humanity of that day. And a woman that said, I saw them pull an officer who had been wounded, who was stuck out in the open, they pulling him to safety. And it was at that moment that I discovered that I was a coward. And it was a realization that I'm not one of those people that are willing to go out there. And she didn't say it in a self-condemning way. She just said, there are people that are brave and put their lives at risk, and there are others that self-preservation is the mode of operation. And that's the group I fell under, and I just realized it in that moment. The movie does everything right. Actors, here's what he did. He interviewed the survivors. He took the transcripts of that and had actors recite them, and actors reenact them. And then he rotoscope animated that. And then just at the perfect time, he puts in the real interviews with the real people, live action, no animation, unfiltered. It's a beautiful kind of medley of stock footage from that day, news footage, audio, video, or film rather. All these different elements. It works beautifully. And a couple other moments that I really liked. And they don't linger on the killer. They give maybe a minute and a half to the killer at the end of it, but what that's in the purpose of is absolutely perfect. Because they don't talk about where he came from or any of that stuff. They don't talk about the fact that he killed his wife and mother the night before. And, they don't give him any more time than he's than necessary. But what I really appreciate most about it is it shows you a split second can define the rest of your life. A lot of these people put it in the back of their minds. They wanted to forget about it. And then when they see the rash of mass shootings that have happened in recent years, it all comes flooding back. And it always lingers. That trauma always lingers. And a lot of them have guilt that they couldn't save more people, or they didn't try to save more people. This one guy says, if I had reached that officer, a second earlier, maybe I could have saved his life. And he starts to sob, and he's saying, coulda, woulda. What can I do now? And it's very haunting, and it doesn't overplay the relevance to today's events, because it doesn't have to. I mean, it's right there.
Mm. It's good too that they didn't focus it. It's good that they didn't focus in on the killer very much, because we've already seen. I mean, if you're a movie lover, you've seen Targets by Peter Bogdanovich, which is not really a point by point recreation of this thing, but it hits the major points and mostly focuses in on the killer, Charles Whitman, who Tim O'Kelly in that movie is not playing Charles Whitman, just to be clear, and then there's also the Kurt Russell TV movie.
That's what I was going to bring up. Yeah, I remember watching that too.
The Deadly Tower is what it's called. And so that's a more straightforward adaptation of the piece. But
there's a moment in the movie where there was a news station that heard that there was a gunshot, and they went there and they started broadcasting live. First of all, this was unheard of. Like, nobody knew what the hell was going on. They said, why the hell would somebody be shooting from the top of a tower? It was not a part of the everyday life like we've come to expect today. It was alien to them. So they start reporting live from the scene, and it's carried throughout, and they need some extra help. So this retired newsman comes into the studio to help, who had just retired from the station earlier. And there's a scene where they're reading the names of the victims, and the retired newsman says, "Could you repeat that? Could you read those again? I think one of those was my grandson." And oh my God, It's heartbreaking. I mean, there's so many like little human moments in this movie that just punch me in the gut like nothing else I've seen this year. And I was shocked because I thought it would be neat to see, but I didn't expect it to be such a kind of emotional, cathartic experience.